if we look back to old stories like the Odyssey, we can see that some of these themes are kind of playing out. That these were people who, in their everyday lives, were dealing with gods and sacrifices and rituals, and um, you know, they were setting out and exploring the world, and it was very mysterious still. Yet at the same time, we have people like Odysseus, who is kind of saying, yeah, when people get in trouble, when his men die in battle, that's because of maybe the gods played some part of that, but a lot of that was just down to his mistakes. It was consequence rather than chance. And when he, goes to Hades, he sees the dead soldiers. You can imagine that he felt responsible for those men because it was his uh, bravery, his thinking, or maybe his stupidity or one bad decision that led to someone to die. So this is someone who is kind of showing the human ability to take over responsibility, and kind of become captain of the ship, for example. Today we don't talk about, we're talking about the Odyssey because it recently was a film, but we don't talk about Greek gods. We don't talk about chance and superstition and fortune and destiny. These are kind of like woo-woo subjects. Yet I think it's a shame to drop those things altogether. So when we face these obstacles, we can call them happenstances or little incidents like you forget the ingredients for something, or you send the email to a wrong person, or perhaps you bump into someone you haven't seen for a very long time. Even though it's going to feel like the right thing to do is to solve them and to figure them out, the other way to look at these, it's a slightly different way of looking at it, is these are just kind of just little instances of fate in a way. They're not that dramatic. There's no lightning bolts, there's no shipwrecks or things like that. But these are things that don't necessarily need to be solved directly. And they point to kind of fate playing out. And one simple thing we can do to show that, to prove that, is that, okay, let's say you missed a bus and you say, well, thinking like Odysseus, that's my mistake. That's because I wasn't prepared, and maybe I'll check the bus schedule and figure it out and won't happen again, which is great. I'm all for agency and planning ahead and making reminders and all that sort of stuff. That's how you get the bus and go to where you're trying to go. Yet it only takes a couple of questions, like, why was that bus late? Was it because the bus driver was having a bad day? Could you have known that? And why did you decide to catch the bus instead of the train? So we can, there's only a couple of questions, but it only takes a few for you to hit a kind of wall of uncertainty, and the unknown is kind of just sitting there only a couple of questions away. We can come up with all sorts of great answers, and often, the best thinkers of us are just very good at predicting and figuring it out, that sort of stuff, and being rational and using logic. Yet again, with any of these situations, a flat tire, running out of an ingredient, all point to things like unconscious urges, or maybe even geopolitical events that have so many conditions and variables and are tied together in so many different ways. It's just it's completely impossible for us to understand why they've happened in that way at that moment, at that time.